Comedians versus the News. Thank you all for finishing Netflix so you could be here with us. It's so nice to hear you.
It really is. I have goosebumps. We are your hosts, everybody. I'm Eman El-Husseini.
And I'm Jess Salomon.
And together, we are the El-Solomons, a Jewish, Palestinian, Muslim, lesbian, married couple.
That's right. We're like if a virtue signal was a relationship. Thank you for applauding. You know, that's not how our families felt about it. Welcome, everyone. This is the BBC World Service show that tackles headlines from around the world with the help of superstar international comedians.
Hosted by us, the queens of Canadian comedy.
That is something, yes, the queens. That is something we call ourselves because no one can verify if it is true.
As part of the BBC World Service Festival, we're joined for this special show by a global audience. That's you guys. Make some noise for yourselves, for being here. And now to just quickly judge what kind of audience you are. Make some noise if you're not wearing pants. Okay, let me try that again in British. Who is not wearing trousers? Make some noise.
All right.
A bit more.
A bit more. These are our people. I've really missed audiences. I have to say, I've even missed the woman who heckled me when she yelled, "You should go back to law."
Right. For those of you who don't know, Jess used to be a lawyer.
Yeah, but I yelled back, "You don't know how bad at law I was, lady." So
you really showed her.
I did. It is now the 1-year anniversary of the pandemic. Can I get just a collective boo from everybody for that? Yeah, cathartic. Let it out. Yes, it sucks.
I don't think we should train them to boo. I don't think it's good to have. Yeah. Listen, this is an anniversary. Nobody is celebrating. Although I must confess to all of you, when the pandemic started, I was all about it. I embraced it. Like baking banana bread, no problem. Here's 7 loaves. Learning a new language, no problemo, señor. Mi corbata es naranja. Right? Reading the books I initially bought to decorate my apartment. I was so into it.
You were thriving. Eman was absolutely thriving. And I couldn't tell if it's because she's always hated people and hated working, or if it's because she's been through war before. I don't know which.
All of the above, definitely. Let's hear how our guests have been coping.
From India, today we are joined by hilarious comedian and podcast host Anuvab Pal, who will be talking to us about India launching its own internet.
And from Germany, it's comedian and comedy presenter Enissa Amani, who'll be talking to us about people who think racism isn't a big deal. Give it up, Enissa. Hi. Now it's time to hear some audience comments. Okay, so we've had our listeners got in touch with us. We received an overwhelming number of stories from all around the world because they're the best. And the news never stops.
So let's go to our first audience story. This one is from Australia and shockingly does not involve a kangaroo, wombat, emu, or any of their weird animals. So Phil in Queensland.
So Phil's story is about Australian climate activists who were charged after gluing themselves to the office building of an oil and gas company and to the intersection of a road. Yeah. So this is what I like. So when the cops showed up, they had to have syringes of acetate, which is basically nail polish remover, to unglue the protesters. Because when they got there, it was like, police, put your hands up. They're like, I can't, I'm stuck.
Yeah.
Tell us, guys, Anuvab, how do protests work in India?
One of my favorites is there was a recent protest about college admissions, and basically a group of people in Punjab lay down on the train tracks. That's big in India. laying down on the train tracks to stop intercity train travel. So obviously everyone's concerned, so their issues are addressed because you're lying down on the train tracks. So the Mumbai-Delhi main thoroughfare is blocked. But what I loved is last year, one group of protesters had the wrong information and lay down on tracks not in use.
Yeah, so brave, so brave.
Yeah, and they were surprised when their demands were not met and no trains came. So I'm fascinated to know in different parts of the world what sort of crazy protests have you seen in America or in Germany?
As Germans, we don't protest, like Germans, that's actually a problem over here. We're very good at passive aggressiveness, like what we do the most is like, Germans, when they shake their finger, that's like the most like really angry they are. I love the French, I have like people, French friends, they're like, yeah, of course I go protesting. And then I'm like, so what are you protesting for? And they're like, I don't care. We will find out during the protest. We'll find the reason, And I was like, I love that. I'm a child of revolutionary parents. And I love that. I don't need a reason. I will find a reason. During the protest, there will be some reason. There's a famous quote of Lenin from Russia. He says, if you tell a German there's a huge revolution going on at the main station, at the Grand Central Station, and all the country, the nation is gathering there, a German would be, okay, I'm coming, but first I have to buy a ticket. So that's what the Russian, what Lenin said about Germans, and it's actually very true.
So we're going to get into our guest stories now. We're going to start with India. So Anuvab, India's contributions to the world, they're endless, right? Bollywood, delicious cuisine, yoga, Kama Sutra, shampoo. Please tell me Pakistan invented conditioner. How great would that be?
Yes.
Even Kamala Harris's mom. And now the internet. Tell us everything about this Indian internet, how it looks like, how are people feeling about it?
Great bit of history there, marked shampoo and conditioner, India and Pakistan.
Right?
So the partition of India was terrible for people with bad hair. It was terrible. It was divided. But look, very quickly, over the past couple of years, India's Prime Minister, Modi, who some of you may know him, he's sort of, how do I describe him? He's sort of part Beyonce, part Lord Buddha. He's sort of a mixture of that. Bit of a showman, a bit of a godman, very popular. And he doesn't like these global tech companies. And it imposed a bunch of stringent measures on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. And they tried to ban TikTok. Now, India's a big market for these people, right? One of the, Iman, you mentioned all the things that India's given. It's also given the world a lot of people. 1.4 billion people. So India, very important to Silicon Valley. So India told Twitter to censor itself because Modi didn't want anti-government stuff. Twitter said no. So India said, we're going to build our own Twitter. So India is building a messaging app like Twitter, and it's called Koo. K-O-O. Now, I'm going to say two things very quickly, one particularly for Enissa. First thing, there were no Germans involved in the building.
That was my question.
I know, we were all thinking it. Second, you might say, why Koo, Anuvab? Why Koo? Well, according to Wikipedia, we have a bird called the Asian coal. So just like Twitter chirps, with Indian originality, we give you Koo, because the Asian coal chirps and the noise it makes is Koo.
I thought it meant like coup d'etat out of here.
Yeah, I think that's what they were fighting against. I think the coup was happening on Twitter, so they needed a KOO.
Right.
So instead of being a global echo chamber where no one listens to each other, India wants to be in a smaller echo chamber, an Indian echo chamber, and not listen to one another, while also without being able to hear the global echo chamber, which is Twitter, in an endless game of digital Russian dolls.
I think it sounds like an internexit. Like Brexit? Okay, anyway. You know what? Pretend I didn't say anything. erase that from your memories.
I love that they just took like the bird sound or like the different name from the bird and made their own version of Twitter, because that's something when I was a baby or like a little kid in Germany, I only knew the animal sounds in Farsi, and they're very different to how they sound in German. Like I don't even know the English one. Like for instance, what the rooster does, the rooster sound in the morning. What do you guys say in English?
Cock-a-doodle-doo.
The audience is like, what was that? Uckly-dookly-doo? What kind of weird rooster? What was that?
Cockle-doodle-doo.
Never. There's no rooster in the world who would go cockle-doodle-doo. That's a yodeling rooster. What kind of rooster? That's a German rooster, actually. Because, because Germans, they say kikeriki. But in Farsi, we say rou-rou-li-rou. We say rou-rou-li-rou. So I always embarrassed myself in like every kind of games we were playing in kindergarten, and they were like, yeah, make that sound. And I was like, rou-rou-li-rou. And like all the German kids were like, what the fuck?
The roosters speak different, languages wherever they're from. So
yeah, I think so. My first coup is going to be rou-rou-li-rou. So that is my.
And tell us how is the internet in Germany?
Very good. Very German, very French. It's the best internet in the world. There's no better internet because Germans were involved. That is.
Enissa, my question about German internet is that if you're wasting time scrolling through a shopping site, looking at shoes, if you're spending too long on that, does German internet just shut that off and send you right back to your Excel spreadsheet? Get to work.
Yeah, I wish. Yeah. I wish they would do that.
More audience comments.
Yes. Yeah. All right, we're going to dip back into our audience submitted stories. Okay, everybody in the audience, yell out a country you want to hear about. Yell out a country you want to hear about. All right, South Korea it is. That's what I heard. Came in pretty clearly. Great job, you guys. Susan Wei got in touch from Seoul to tell us about South Korean singer Solbi, who's been having a hard time lately. First, she was accused of baking a cake that plagiarized Jeff Koons, and now she's been caught selling a moldy cake.
It's been hard to be creative during the pandemic, so I empathize with her, right? She plagiarized Jeff Koons' famous artwork called Play-Doh. I don't know much about art, but Play-Doh is a putty company for children. So I think it's safe to say Jeff Koons plagiarized the artwork of a child.
Iman, you don't know a lot about art, and you
I really don't
think that a Picasso was done by a child.
So, Solbi, on behalf of South Korea, I guess what I'm trying to say is that stick to singing.
I see a problem with the baking. Like I think as a good woman, she should use her oven as a storage space for shoes. That's what I do. I put my I don't have enough place for my heels, and that's a fact.
Next we have Ramsey in Canada, and he sent us a voice memo to let us know what's going on with him. Let's listen to Ramsey.
I told my mom I don't want to work anymore, but I still want to get paid. And she said, why don't you move back to Lebanon and work as a member of parliament? There's a little joke that I used to tell, but it's probably too sad right now, but I'll tell you anyways. How do you know a Lebanese president is good? He or she is assassinated within a month of being elected.
We love applause. We love a dark joke on this program.
I mean, our audience is hilarious. Give it up for everyone you've heard, guys. All the stories that have been sent in, huh? That was so good. We have more, though.
We have. Okay, I'm going to take another poll. Okay. Does the audience want to hear a headline from Canada or the Philippines? Remember, we're Canadian. Canada in a landslide.
Canada
in a landslide.
I had no idea Canada started with a P. This is new.
When it's very cold. Canada. Okay.
Also, can I just quickly point out, there's a very large Philippines contingent in our audience.
So from a story from Canada, we have someone named Dino who messaged us this story, specifically from Alberta, the Texas of Canada, where a government-funded group known as the Energy War Room is trying to cancel an animated children's film called Bigfoot Family. They're mad because in the film, Bigfoot tries to protect a wildlife reserve from an oil company.
Wow. Of course, the powerful cartoon propaganda industry, right? It's a much bigger threat to our children than the environmental damage wrought by fossil fuels.
Right. Listen, kids, the environment is just like sex. It's important that we don't teach you anything about it until you're much older and it's too late. That joke was just for Anuvab and not the 600 people.
I'm a bit worried as to why I related to it so much more than everybody else.
I don't know.
Nobody in the Philippines is interested in this. Yes.
You're listening to a special Comedians versus the News as part of the BBC World Service Festival with me, Iman El-Husseini.
And me, Jess Salomon. And joining us from around the world is our live, virtual, but very real audience.
Yay!
From the Philippines. Okay, we want to get into Enissa's story because there's a lot to unpack here with the story that you brought, Enissa. Apparently, an all-white panel on German TV decided racism wasn't an issue, which, of course, was a huge relief for me to learn about. Do you agree? And what's wrong with or right with German TV?
Nothing, I think. The problem is that a lot of Germans are involved, That's the problem at this point, I mean, sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes it's a bad thing, And so we had this panel, and there were like 4 blonde people, white people sitting there. Some of them, two of them are very, very famous German entertainers and TV personalities, like really huge ones. And they were sitting at this panel discussing racial slurs and really saying people are exaggerating. German Twitter went crazy over these statements. Another woman was saying she's facing the same kind of discrimination because she has big boobs and blonde hair, and there are a lot of jokes about. So the Twitter was funny. It was killing it. Twitter had the one hashtag going on, blonde big breast lives matters, something like blonde big breast life matters. It was really a crazy situation. But we turned it into something good because I made a panel and invited 5 people who represent minorities, but also have the academic background to discuss racism and discuss all that. And the show I did went very viral in Germany, and I'm very, very happy. But yes, still Germany is a problem if you want to, talk racism and talk all these issues. And that's why we have huge movements going on in Germany, and we're trying to, also put some humor into it, but it's a hard situation over here.
Anuvab, how's racism in India? Is that an issue?
Well,
Do you have it?
Yeah, we had that tiny thing called the caste system,
right?
Which
it's so tiny, right?
Yeah, which looks at racism and be like, you think you've got racism? Come, we'll show you how it's done. This is what I feel. Lisa, is that a lot of people think that it's perfectly okay to say these things and say, but I'd be all right saying them in 1812. It's like, yeah, but we're not in 1812
yes.
anymore. But I want to know what you think. A thing I often hear, just to sort of give the other side, is people often say, I may not be of a certain color, but as an intelligent person, I can have a view, right? And you hear that quite often, right? And my thing is, sure, you can. However, I like to compare it to this. Imagine you're on a panel talking about professional tennis, and you're a middle-aged librarian, right? And you say, yes, in my opinion, I think hitting an ace gets harder after 35. Sure, you can say it, but you have zero experience and zero games to back you up.
Are you guys enjoying our audience special? If you want more from the BBC World Service Festival, check out the Arts Hour on Tour special virtual edition from Stockholm with live music, stand-up comedy, and Sweden's top creative talents. They'll be joining Nikki Betty to discuss artists' response to the pandemic.
And just a few quick shout outs to Emily in Italy, Martin in Wales, and Susan in the Philippines.
Who emailed stories, yeah.
Thank you to...
Because they emailed stories, Iman, not just random.
Just Philippines and okay. Thank you to Sony in South Africa and Dunkun in Kenya, who were in touch with us via the Facebook page. I can't believe some people are still using Facebook.
We're both still there. All right. We've also heard from a few friends of the show. One of our favorite Mexican comedians and recent guests, Antonio Badia, told us the Mexican president, also known as AMLO, created a 3.4 billion peso program where people in rural areas were paid to plant saplings in deforested areas. So what happened was people started cutting down trees and burning down the jungle so that they can get paid to plant new trees under the program.
Wow. Talk about backfiring with actual fire. That's like...
I don't think I've heard of a policy backfiring so bad since everything the CIA did in Latin America.
And here to let us know what's going on in New York City, which is also where we live, it's another one of our favorites, the God Pops to our puppy, Gastor Almonte.
Thanks, Jess and Eman. I'm reporting to y'all live out here from the streets of Brooklyn. And you know, there's something I notice very quickly. If I look outside, I see a woman. I tend to see a man pretty nearby. It's almost like they're a 1-to-1 ratio. But you know where you don't see that ratio in New York? In our statues. That's right. There's a huge discrepancy in the amount of statues that you see of women versus the amount of statues of men that you see on display in this country. But there are steps being taken to change that. On March 12th, a new bronze statue of the former U.S. Supreme Court Justice, Big Dog RBG, Ruth Bader Ginsburg was hitting the streets of City Point in downtown Brooklyn to celebrate Women's History Month of March. The artist Gillian Mark, who known for making statues, started this initiative called Statues for Equality in 2019 when they noticed that after 100 commissions for statues, they had never been asked to do a statue of a woman. So they took the initiative and they displayed 10 new statues in 2019 all across New York. There's an opportunity here, that's being missed. So I'm glad that it's being addressed right now. This has been Gastor Almonte reporting to y'all, courtesy of Comedians versus the News.
Yes, Gaston. He really gave us a full report from the streets of New York.
Listen, I definitely always want to see female representation in the workplace, the entertainment industry, and definitely in statues. Although I'm Muslim and in Islam, my religion, worshipping statues is a sin, but so is alcohol and my marriage. So,
well, you know.
I have a quick statistics question for you guys. I just tried to look. Look, I'm from India. I have to do some mathematics. I have to do some mathematics.
You have 3 laptops in front of you, and you're just like, all the information is scrolling down. Go ahead.
You know we're not from India, though, right? Okay.
Yeah. Well, so according to a 2019 article, the number of men statues in the United States, male statues, 92.4%. And the balance percentage women statues. Now, apart from just the in the UK, it's a little better. 86.3% are men. The remainder are women. Now,
they're all the queen.
I'm shocked. Yeah, they're all the queen. Exactly. Yeah, queen, maybe Margaret Thatcher. Now, my question is, apart from the shock, what is a decimal point in a statue? Like, is it a man on a horse?
And the horse is a woman? Is female?
Yeah. Is it an umbrella? Like, what is being counted in a decimal point?
All right, right, so we have a story of our own that we wanted to talk about. Iman, China and Russia announced they're planning to build a research station on the moon together.
Oh no. No. This is like when two people that don't like you start hanging out, and say things like, Iman and or America are just the worst. Iman and or America think they're so cool and powerful. Iman or America fake the moon landing.
Okay, no one would say that last thing about you. This partnership between China and Russia makes a lot of sense, actually, right? Because China recently became a leader in space research, and Russia's been trying to make a comeback since its heyday in the 50s and 60s.
Okay, poor space. I'm feeling really bad for space. Getting all the worst parts of Earth, geopolitical competition, development without any consideration for the environment. Elon Musk.
Okay, look, I think we can't prejudge it. We don't know how China and Russia will be when they're in space, right? When there's no pressure on them to be China and Russia. Maybe they both got together and were like, we're pretty intense on Earth. Let's just go somewhere no one knows us. Where we can really let down our hair or let it up because no gravity. Yeah.
So
new start.
You think it would be like a what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas situation?
Well, no, because in Vegas, people are worse. But what if in space, they're better? We don't know.
So you're suggesting that China will be there at the bar like, I guess you could say my favorite things are personal freedom, constitutionally protected human rights, and long walks on the beach.
Maybe. I mean, it's literally an entirely different atmosphere there.
And then Russia will respond like, I must say, I hate poison and heterosexuality.
I mean, that's what you said when we moved to New York, Iman.
Right. Anuvab and Enissa, I want to know are you yourselves when you're on vacation, or are you a new personality? How is it?
I think space station, by these two countries here is loosely defined. It seems China and Russia are probably running out of places on Earth to make people disappear.
Right.
With Google Maps, they will be found. However, Alexei Navalny in space is a whole different story.
I think about the station, Iran and Germany should be involved. This is all I'm saying. I think it will not work with China and Russia alone. It will be a much safer situation if we involve Germans and Iranians. So this,
yes.
Got it.
Yeah, and we only have coup then there. Coup should be the internet we use over there.
Thank you to our audience. You've been so generous taking the time to send us your stories. Thanks to Anna in the UK, Jess in New Zealand, and Jill in France.
And then, give it up.
We've got two more quick ones to wrap up, and this has been so much fun. Okay, go ahead, Iman.
It's really been the best. Okay,
tell us about Ireland.
Yeah, this is Johnny from Ireland who gave us an update on how the Irish government is handling the pandemic. He wrote, I live in Ireland, a country which is currently committed to overcoming the pandemic as slowly as possible. Our government has found a wonderfully new way of doing little or nothing. You have to take your hat off to them. I'm not sure if this counts as comedy, but it sure feels funny. Johnny from Ireland.
Johnny from Ireland. In a word, relatable. In Quebec, the French province of Canada, the government is talking about extending the curfew from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Woo! Because we just turned the clocks back. So essentially, still 8 p.m. And to close the show, a heartwarming story sent by Farah in Turkey about a 75-year-old grandmother of 8 who is fighting the symptoms of Parkinson's disease by boxing 3 times a week. Listen, she sounds lovely, and I would be honored if she punched me in the face, okay?
Would it even hurt?
I don't know. It'd just feel like a nice touch by a grandmother, but just like a
right,
little,
exactly.
Why didn't you marry a man, you know? All right, you guys have been absolutely fantastic.
The best. So good to have
you. Let Farah
you.
from Turkey hear it. Let our wonderful guests, Anuvab Pal and Enissa Amani hear it.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to our special audience edition of Comedians versus the News.
Presented by me, Jess Salomon.
Yes. And me, Iman El-Husseini. The producer is Olivia Skinner.
We're back in the studio next week with comedians from India and Australia to make you laugh. And until then, good day, mates.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye,
Thank you
everybody.
so